Good morning, Boker Tov.
Boker
Mar Tov. We are here gathered on the holiest day of the year, and it is wonderful to be together. As we delve into our service, just a few words of information and logistics. If you need anything throughout the service, our ushers are available to you, and of course, our executive director, Brett Schenkman. You may notice that Rabbi Shauna Nair, our director of lifelong learning, is not here this morning. She is at Horseshoe Lake. She is at Horseshoe Lake with our youngest kids up to grade 3. They are celebrating Yom Kippur in an age-appropriate way. I believe she is there with somewhere 15 or more families, and if you are here all day, you will see her later in the day with some of those parents, probably not those kids. Additionally, I want to give a shout out to our music director, cantorial soloist Deb, who is getting over being sick and is here in full voice, well, as much of a full voice as will allow, and our octet, which is now a septet. They are also battling various illnesses, and one of our amazing professional choir is not here. They are away on a family emergency. So thank you for all you've done to switch around solos and recreate things even as late as yesterday afternoon. Last night was just magnificent, so thank you.
Thank you.
This morning, it has become a tradition of mine. Actually, you know, traditions can happen in 1 year, but over the last few years, I have changed the way that I offer my message. And so this morning, my message will come as 3 separate parts. So 3 shorter sermons scattered throughout the service. And so they'll be, I'll warn you, don't worry, but they're not just one long sermon, they're 3 separate pieces. Did I miss anything, Deb?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
We're good.
You know, by this point in the High Holy Days, we sort of share a brain. So we need each other very much. So we're going to turn now to our opening reading, which is on page 135. We thank you, living and eternal one, for morning light, for the breath within us, for strength and life renewed. Now it opens before us, this Sabbath of Sabbaths, gift of spacious contemplation, mirror for the soul. May we see our lives reflected in this still, clear pool, a day apart, unhurried time, and undivided mind. Give us joy in this day that Israel shares. Give us presence and attention, clear vision, a listening heart. We wake to the morning. We open our eyes. We breathe your name. We turn to page 178. We rise for the Baruch Hu, our call to worship.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach.
continue with Yotzer, the prayer that welcomes the morning and the miracle that we could have this light, that we could have day and night. And so our rabbis said we should have a prayer every morning to thank God for the morning sunlight.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam.
Praise to you, Adonai our God, whose power fills the cosmos, who opens for us the gates of compassion and lights up the eyes of those who await forgiveness.
Yotzer oru boreh choshech, oseh shalom uboreh et hakol.
Shaper of light, source of darkness, maker of peace, creator of all. Infinite light is preserved in life's treasure house. Lights from the darkness, said God, and it was so.
Page 185. Please join me in this meditation before the Shema. Hineni, behold, I stand ready to listen and learn, to embrace in thought and deed, to proclaim with a whole heart the sacred unity of all being.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha, vedibata bam, beshivtecha bevetecha, uvlechtecha baderech, uvshochbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beineinecha. Uchtavtam amezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai Vitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
This is the first of 3 of my messages this morning. Many of us have heard the legend of Nachshon. When the Israelites fled Egypt, they came right up to the sea. Facing the water, they heard the Egyptian chariots and horses behind them. Fearing they were doomed, the Israelites began to cry in fear. As Moses consulted with God, Nachshon took one step into the water, and then another and another. Soon he was in the water up to his knees, and he kept walking. He walked until the water came to his chest, and then the water came to his chin, and yet he still walked. And just as he took another step, threatening his very breath, the sea parted. The Israelites were waiting for a miracle. Moses was pleading with God to create that miracle. Nachshon recognized that he had to help create the miracle. So he stood up to help save the people, and the waters split. We don't get to choose the waves that come our way, but we do get to decide how to respond to them. It is our response to the waves that make us the people that we are. And friends, we would not choose, it's a little early to need water, we would not choose the waves of anti-Semitism that have grown so much larger these past years. As in past waves of anti-Semitism, factors such as demographic shifts, new technologies, economic disruptions, and deepening socioeconomic inequality are leading to increased violence against Jews. Anti-Semitic incidents such as verbal harassment, bomb threats, and vandalism against individuals, synagogues, and community institutions remain prevalent. Moreover, violent extremists who perpetrate these attacks often subscribe to white supremacist conspiracy theories. We can cite, with sadness and not a little bit of fear, high-profile incidents of anti-Semitism. However, it's important to note that anti-Semitism has become a widespread, consistent threat. In 2022, there were 3,697 anti-Semitic incidents worldwide, an increase of 36% over 2021. And 36% of Jews experienced anti-Semitic harassment online. The Anti-Defamation League report counted a total of 665 anti-Israel incidents across the United States during the 2022-2023 academic year. These included 9 instances of vandalism, 24 instances of targeted verbal or written harassment, 303 anti-Israel events, and 326 protests and actions. I don't share these facts and statistics lightly. These waves of anti-Semitism have not gone unnoticed. The president has created the first ever office to monitor and combat anti-Semitism and appointed as special envoy renowned historian, professor, and author Deborah Lipstadt to serve as ambassador. Remarking on the vital importance to combat anti-Semitism, she said, "This could not be more essential, because this scourge threatens not just the safety of Jews, but the strength of our democracy, For here again, history is instructive, telling us that where anti-Semitism persists, democracy suffers. Yet where communities and nations step forward to combat anti-Semitism, they tend to emerge more secure, more free, and more fair for all. Friends, we did not choose the rising waters of anti-Semitism, but we do choose our response. On Yom Kippur, we can all be like Nachshon. We can all step forward and step into those rising waves. There is much we can do. We must speak up. We must advocate against hate. We must educate ourselves on how to stop the spread of anti-Semitism online. We must report all incidences to law enforcement, to professionals like me, no matter how minor they seem. For when we part the waves, and we shall, we'll walk forward on dry land to continue to fulfill our vision of the world we're creating, a world that has been repaired, a world filled with compassion, a world without hate, without prejudice, without bigotry, a world without anti-Semitism, a world we can walk forward on dry land. Page 195. And they shall know that I, Adonai, am their God, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, that I might abide among them, I, Adonai, their God. You took us out of the darkness so that your light might dwell among us. You showed us your power to bring down the powerful, uplift the enslaved, transform the social order. You showed us your strength so that we might remember our own. We carry the Exodus vision with us wherever we go, lest we forget our sense of liberation, lest we lose the joy of breathing free, lest we grow indifferent and blind to others' pain. So long as we work to make you present, we walk the path of freedom. But if we forget to bring you into this world, then we return to the darkness. We continue on page 198 with the Tefillah. We'll begin chanting on 198 and we'll continue on page 200, 202, and 204 with the High Holy Day insertions. Please rise in body or spirit.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים. וכותבנו בספר החיים, למען האלוהים חיים. מלך וצר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה, רב להושיע. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל.
Please be seated. We turn now in our service to Unatana Tokef. It is a central part of our service. We remember the melody, we remember the words, and yet theologically it is difficult. It reminds us that there's a book, right? The Sefer Chaim, this book that God perhaps has opened in the sky, and we're remembering that some will live and some will die, and this idea of fate is theologically challenging. But we know that we have the power to know how we will respond. And we think about what it means to respond to the challenges that life inevitably throws at us, those curveballs that we don't understand. And so we know that this year there will be challenges, there will be curveballs. How we respond is the difference. Page 208.
Sir.
our sovereign, God of pardon and forgiveness, let these words of sanctity ascend to you. Let us proclaim the sacred power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love. Your reign is a reign of truth. In truth, you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and seal. You record and recount. You remember all that we have forgotten. And when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself. For every human hand leaves its mark, an imprint like no other. And so a great shofar will cry, Tekiah, a still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, Behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you, like sheep before the shepherd, as a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff. You count and consider every life. You set bounds. You decide destiny. You inscribe judgments.
Yushpal umi
On Rosh Hashanah, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of old age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will be calm and who will be tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled and who exalted? But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. We turn to page 218. We rise for the Kiddushah.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמרו, ככתוב היד נביאך, בקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני חוקי. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גואלך, ונצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושמך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה.
Page 233. We just sanctified God's name, as it were, and now we sanctify this day, the holiness of this day, with this prayer where we ask our prayers to lift up to God with this most special, the holiest day, Shabbaton. Zochreinu Adonai Eloheinu, bo l'tovah.
Eternal our God, remember us. Amen.
Ufokteinu vo livracha.
Be mindful of us. Amen.
V'hoshienu vo l'chaim.
And redeem us for a life of goodness and blessing. Amen.
Please be seated. Page 235. teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. Your fellow human being is a mirror for you. If there is love and compassion in your soul, you will see the goodness in others. If you see a blemish in another, it is your own imperfection you encounter. Take careful note of the flaws you perceive in others. We continue on page 238 with Ritzeh, prayer asking, again, for our prayers to be acceptable to God. In every service, there's a moment of giving thanks. So we turn to page 243 for this wonderful reading on giving thanks. Tiny joys. Tiny joys, joys like a lizard's tail, a sudden sea between two city buildings in the west, windows glittering in the setting sun, everything blessed. Everything blessed, a consoling music in everything mysteries and hints, and everything waiting for chorals of beautiful words to be strung by the imagination on its string. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh lehodot. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose goodness deserves thanks and praise. Page 245. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev taught, the hands of the Kohanim were a language in themselves. Hands held out with the palms facing up indicate the desire to receive. Hands held up with the palms facing down indicate the desire to give. So when the Kohanim lifted up their hands to bless, they did not wish to pray for themselves, but only to bestow God's bounty on the people. Together. Holy One, we strive to be a nation of priests, our lives consecrated to holy work. Help us to use our hands as instruments of divine service, conduits of your goodness. May blessings flow through us to our children, our friends, and all those whose lives we touch. 246, Sim Shalom.
Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tovah Bracha. Eloheinu, Torat Chaim ve'ahavat chesed, U'tzedakah ve'rachamim ve'chaim ve'shalom. Sim shalom, sim shalom, Tovah uveracha, ve'tov b'necha, levarech et amcha Yisrael, ve'et kol ha'amim, bechol et ובכל שעה בשלומך. שים שלום, שים שלום, שים שלום, שים
We take a moment for silent prayer and reflection.
Take the hurt away from how I speak. Only love flows from you. May every word I speak be true. Elohai netzor leshoni merah. I've sung that refrain, I'll repeat. There's more to you than only me. Elohai netzor leshoni merah. Elohai netzor leshoni meira. Usfatai midaber mirma. V'limka lelai nafshi tidom, v'nafshi kafar lako tihiyeh. Hi, nai, nai. Hi, nai, nai, nai. Hi, nai, nai. Hi, nai, nai, nai. Hi, nai, nai. Hi, nai, nai, nai. Hi, nai, nai. Hi, nai, nai, nai.
Please rise.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shma Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Shma Koleinu. Shma Koleinu, Shma Koleinu.
Page 112. Avinu Malkeinu, Ha'er lanu et derech hayenu. Avinu Malkeinu, illumine for us the path of our life. Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the strength to take the road less traveled by? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we come to know the purpose of our existence? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we learn not to live life in vain? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we get out of our indifference? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we distinguish between truth and falsehood? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the answers to our questions? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we gird ourselves with strength to seek answers? Avinu Malkeinu, chanenu va'anenu, chazkenu ve'imsenu, ki v'cha ve'imcha hatshvuot. Avinu Malkeinu, be gracious to us, answer us, empower us, and give us courage, for the answers are both in you and with you.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamul aleinu, Valul aleinu, V'ta'apeinu. Avinu Malkeinu,
We return to page 253. It's my pleasure to invite forward at this time to carry the Torah and the Hakafah, Susan Merdler, Lori Rosenberg, and Alyssa Katz. And actually, I'm sorry, we're on page 254. It's only one page to turn. Bringing Torah into our midst, let the reading of Torah be like a prayer, a meditation to remind us what we strive for, a chant that binds us to the chain of generations. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, a moment of purest solidarity with our people's hopes and history, an invitation to affirm or dissent, to challenge or believe, to ask why or say amen. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, flowing like waters that renew the spirit, refreshing and sweet to nourish the soul. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, every word a blessing, every verse a conversation with God.
Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, notzer chesed la'alafim, notzer avon b'vesha, v'chata v'nakeh.
Shema
Just a completely random aside. When I started wearing a smartwatch, I used to wonder how it is that I got so many steps leading services. Now I understand. So before we read Torah, last on Rosh Hashanah, I introduced, actually for the second time, the ritual of Birkat HaGomel. Birkat HaGomel is an ancient ritual made new again of remembering and honoring those who have been through some sort of significant ordeal. In ancient times, Birkat HaGomel was actually created for this idea that there were this group of people who were imprisoned, and then they got out of prison, and then they made it through the desert, and they got sick, and then they made it through getting sick, and when they got home, no one could really believe this extraordinary adventure, and so they offered a prayer for them. And over time, it became codified. In recent years, it's been brought back to life because we have been through so many ordeals, whether it is coming through and really coming through an illness, coming through an injury, a terrible plane ride, something significant in life that has altered us in some minor or major way. COVID, all of these things have reshaped who we are. And so we introduce Birkat HaGomel to name and honor these things that reshape us and help us rethink who we are. So on Rosh Hashanah, we introduced it with a song and this introductory conversation. And while we were singing, I invited anyone who thought perhaps this applied to them to stand. And if you were here, you may have noticed that no one stood. It takes a lot to put me down. So I invite you again to be brave. So it's always hard to be the first one. And to think about those things that reshaped you in the last year. You define that. There is no one can define that for you. It can be very hard. It could be very wonderful. And as we sing, feel free to stand. Be brave, be the first one. Feel free to stand and think about those moments and what that has done for your life.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shegma lanu kol tov. Amen. Selah, Selah, Mishek bochem kol tov. Selah, Selah, hu yikbochem kol tov.
You carried me forward, filled me with courage, sheltered me through the storm. Wrapped in your blessing, a love so embracing. Once broken, I am now whole. You carried me forward, filled me with
we turn to our Torah reading. It has become customary for our Torah reading to honor our faculty and madrachim with the Aliyah. And it's a beautiful custom, and yet it feels a little strange because Rabbi Shauna is at Horseshoe Lake. And she is the reason that we have amazing faculty and madrachim. And so we honor her for continuing to be her amazing self at Horseshoe Lake. And so if you have taught during our tent, please come forward. If you are a madrich or madricha during our tent, please come forward. Those of you who have carried machzorim with you, open to page 258 so we can all share. Why are you over there? The Torah's over here. and I don't smell yet, so. Yeah, I know. I was hoping somebody would catch that. All right. Whenever you're ready. 1, 2, 3.
Baruch Adonai Haborah.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. So you can follow along with what I'm reading on page 266. I'm going to read Deuteronomy 29, 9 through 14, and then I'm going to pick up again with verse 11 in chapter 30 on page 267. Atem nitzavim hayom kochem lifnei Adonai Elohechem. You stand here. Nitzavim means not just to stand, like, hang out. It's to really stand present and ready and fully in the moment. Hayom kochem lifnei Adonai Elohechem. You stand here present this day, all of you, before Adonai, your God. Rashechem, Shivtechem, Ziknechem, Vishotrechem, Kol Ish Yisrael. And who is standing here before God? The heads of your tribes, and the children, and the elders, and the guards, and all of the people. Kol Ish. So it could be all men, it could be all people of Israel. Tapchem, Nishechem, V'gercha, Asher, B'kerev, Michonecha. The children and your wives, or the women, and the stranger that is in the midst. Mechote, Mechanecha, Mechotev Atzecha ad Shoev Memecha, from the wood chopper ad Shoev Memecha, until the water drawer. So why are we mentioning the wood chopper and the water drawer? Because we're mentioning every single person and every strata of the community. So we mention all the way up those people that are the upper echelon of the community, all the way to those people who do the most menial of tasks, probably those that face the most economic economic injustice. Bivrit Adonai Elohecha uva'alato, to enter into the covenant of God and to enter into God's oath. Asher Adonai Elohecha koret imcha hayom, because I, Adonai, your God, koret, I cut this contract, imcha hayom, with you this day, lama'an hekim odcha, so that it will be established with you, hayom, this day, lo la'am, and you will be my people, vehu Adonai, vehu yihiyeh lecha, and you will be, and I will be your God. Sorry, I forgot the word God. Vehu yihiyeh lecha le'elohim, and you will be, and I will be your God. Ka'asher diber lach, V'cha asher nishba la'avotecha la'Avraham li'Yitzchak li'Yaakov. And it was sworn to your forefathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. V'lo idchem levadchem anochi koret et habrit hazot. And it is not only with you alone that I establish or cut this covenant, ve'et ha'alah, and this oath, ve'et ha'alah hazot, and this oath, ki et asher yeshnu po imanu omed hayom. I also establish this covenant and this oath with those who are not standing here this day. And what does that mean? It means us. It means for every generation, it is as if we were at Sinai. It is as if we were standing there in that moment, nitzavim, ready and present in that moment. Ve'et asher enenu po imanu hayom ki. I think that's where I keep. Imanu hayom. Is that where I stop? Yeah. Okay. See, that's the problem. I could keep going. Okay. So now we're going to jump to chapter 30, verse 11. Ki ha-mitzvah hazot asher anochi mitzavacha hayom. For this commandment, mitzvah. So we understand, sometimes we say do a mitzvah, do a good deed. So mitzvah is a commandment. I actually prefer to translate it as a sacred obligation. So for this sacred obligation, asher anochi mitzavcha hayom, that I am enjoined upon you or ask you to do this day. This is actually one of my favorite sections of Torah. Lo nifleit hi is not too wondrous for you. Lo nifleiti mimcha is not too wondrous for you to do. Lo rechokahi, it's not too far away. Lo bashamayim hi, it's not in the heavens. Lemor, that someone could say. So what is that saying? So we could say, I can't do that. I can't do that sacred obligation. It is, it's too wondrous. It's too awe-inspiring. It's too far away. It's too, up in the sky. No, we can't say that. We say, Lemor, mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayma v'yikacheha lanu. Who's going to go and get that mitzvah for me? Right? As if it's a thing with legs, as if it's tangible. Vayishma'enu ata, and who's going to do it? It's so amazing. It's so big. V'na'asena and do it. Lo, v'lo me'ever liyam. No, it is not across the water. It's not in the sea or across the water. Hu lemor mi ya'avor lanu. And someone's doesn't need to go over there and get it, cross there and get it. El ever hayam, vayikache halanu, and go and get it. Vayishma'enu ata, and do it, and listen to it, v'na'asena, and do it. Ki karov elecha hadavar. It is very close. It is very close. And the word karov doesn't also mean physically close. It means karuv. It means it is close in your heart. So it's a spiritual closeness and a physical closeness. Beficha uvilvavecha la'asoto. It is in your mouth, it is in your heart that you may do it. I'm gonna move the column a little. Re'ei natati lefanecha hayom. See, I have set before you this day et ha'chaim ve'et hatov, life and good, ve'et ha'mavet ve'et hara, and death and evil. Asher anochi mitzavacha hayom, which I have enjoined or asked upon you this day. La'ahava et Adonai Elohecha, to love the Lord your God. La'lechet bidrachav, to walk in God's ways. Ulishmor mitzvotav, and to observe God's sacred obligations. V'chukotav, and God's just judgments or pronouncements. Umishpotav, and rules. V'chayita v'ravita, that you may live and be great. Ravita comes from the word rav, like toda rabbah, thank you very much, and be great. Uverachecha Adonai Elohecha, and that you may be blessed by Adonai your God. Ba'aretz asher ata va shama larishta, in the land which you have ba shama, that you will come to inherit, come to be in that place to inherit. Ve'im, and now that's the end of a thought. So if you do all these things, you will have all of this. Ve'im, ve'if, so now we're turning, right? But if, ve'im yifne levavacha, and if you turn your heart, velo tishma nidachta, and if you don't listen, venidachta, and you bow, and you turn again, v'hishtachavita, and you bow, le'elohim acherim, to other gods, va'avadatem, and you serve other gods, higadati lachem, I call out to you, hayom, this day, ki oved tovedun, not such a good thing, that you will be totally destroyed. And lo ta'arichun yamim, your days will not be lengthened, al ha'adamah, on the earth. So there's a distinction here. I read be'eretz, the land that was promised, and here we have adamah, on the earth. Not only will you not be lengthened, you won't get into the land, and you're not even going to the land. You're on the earth. Asher ha'idoti bachem, I call to witness this day for you, hayom, on this day, et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz. So God can call witnesses that aren't human. So God is calling witnesses of the heavens and the earth, ha'chayim v'hamavet, and life and death. Natati lifanecha, I place before you life and death, and blessing and curse, habracha v'haklala, uvachartze v'chayim. These are famous words. I used them last night in my sermon, that you will choose life. And last night I said that you will choose to live life. Lama'an techiyeh ata, that you will be good for you, that you will thrive. V'zaracha ahava, and your seed after you, to love et Adonai Elohecha, the Lord your God. Lishmoa bekolo, to listen to the voice, to listen to God's voice is implied, but it just says bekolo, God's voice. Uledavka vo, to cleave to God. Ki hu chayecha ve'orech yamecha, because God is your life and the length of your days. Leshevet al ha'adamah, to live or to dwell, or actually to sit is the root word, to sit on, to dwell in the earth. Asher nishba Adonai, which God has promised, la'avotecha, to your forefathers, la'avraham, liyitzrak, u'liyaakov, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, latet lahem, which was given to them. And that is why, because I translate, I didn't do all of those verses. We'd still be here tomorrow. The blessing.
Temet b'chayenu lam nata betochenu baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And I want to say thank you to our madrachim and teachers for being such a blessing to our congregational community, to our tent community. You are what makes our program so special and allows it to thrive so deeply. Thank you. Maybe. Oh. As we have turned to Torah for strength for thousands of years, we do so this morning as we turn to our Mishaberach on page 273. And we keep in our hearts the names of those who are struggling, whether it be an illness of body, an illness of spirit, mental illness, so many struggles that we have. And we sing our Mishaberach together.
Ve'im those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
To share a few words with you. This is the second of the three messages this morning. And I want to share a few words with you that are connected to this Torah portion. This Torah portion is Moses' last words, among his very last words, and he's talking about the Israelites being able to go into the promised land, going into Israel. And he says, Atem nitzavim hayom kolchem, we stand up ready this day, all of us. These opening words from our Torah portion remind us on this, our holiest day of the year, of our responsibility to stand up. We must stand up and be present. We must stand up and make our voices heard. And as Moses talks about Israel, and as I practiced this Torah portion, I recognized how difficult it is to be in relationship with Israel. It's a complex country and a complex region. The media coverage often puts Israel in a negative light, with Israel as an aggressor. In the United States, it's almost impossible to have a conversation without feeling judged. Rabbi Jill Jacobs writes, unfortunately, many American Jews have gotten the message that there are only two options for engagement with Israel. You either defend the government's every move or oppose the country's very existence. As a result, too many American Jews have simply thrown up their hands and walked away. And friends, this is the choice that I have been making for too long. It's the wrong choice. And I am sorry. Israel, it's divisive, it's complex, it's emotional. And Israel is at a crossroads unlike any other it has ever faced. Unlike other crises, this defining moment is an internal crisis. It is an internal crisis that is redefining the future of the country's core values as a democracy. The last election created the most extreme right-wing government in Israel's existence. The ultra-nationalist and ultra-religious parties are currently in power. They have quickly moved to weaken the independence of the judiciary, which is the only source of checks and balances in Israel. The current Israeli government is moving Israel towards an authoritarian, theocratic state, and I do not say that lightly. With fear for the future and determination to save their democracy, Israelis have not stood idly by. For 8 months, 37 straight weeks, Israeli citizens have been protesting the Israeli government. It is estimated that 21% of the entire population of Israel has participated in a protest. Some peaceful protests have been so large that highways have been shut down, access to the airport has been blocked. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis have marched, proudly waving the flag of Israel and chanting the Hebrew word for democracy, demokratia. Gilad Kariv, a lawyer and the first Israeli Reform rabbi to have a seat in the Knesset, is a member of the Labor Party, the opposition. He describes these protests. We see young people, veterans, the former leaders and commanders of Israel's security agencies, the Israel Defense Forces, the Mossad. They're all there, saying this judiciary reform will harm Israel. You have leaders of the high-tech industry talking about Israel's economy, the CEOs of all the Israeli banks, the universities, you see a very deep understanding that this is a dramatic moment. And commentator Gershom Gorenberg writes, the key issues that have previously defined right and left in Israel, the occupation, giving up land, West Bank settlement, they're not on the agenda because for now, everyone is trying to save Israel's democracy. They are on the same side. Just as Israelis have banded together, putting aside their political differences in coalition to save the future of Israel, so must we. We must stand up and be present for Israel. We must stand up and be present for Israel because our Israeli neighbors need us. The journalists Yossi Klein Halevi, Daniel Gordis, and Matti Klein wrote, we and our families, along with many tens of thousands of other Israelis, are in the streets every week, demanding the government end its war against our democratic values and institutions. We need your voice to help us preserve Israel as a state, both Jewish and democratic. And so, friends, what can we do? The first thing we're going to do is learn. If you have not picked up your book, please pick up your book. We are doing a congregational read to talk about Israel. Can we talk about Israel? Is available for every member of this congregation. On October 12th, the author Daniel Sokach will join us for a book talk via Zoom. On October 26th, we'll join together this congregation in person for a conversation. Having a shared narrative is the most important place to start. I do not expect these conversations to be easy, but we must talk about Israel. That is our first step. Atem nitzavim hayom kolchem, we stand up this day, all of us. Let us, beginning this Yom Kippur, stand strong for Israel. Let us this Yom Kippur be present for Israel. We turn now to dress the Torah. In order to do that, we need to lift the Torah up high so that we can all see what was read. It's my pleasure to invite Svetlana Pundik to come forward. She will lift the Torah high, called Hagbah, and then we will dress it. Thank you already. Those of you who know that we need to stand up, please rise in body or spirit. Please be seated. We continue with our Haftarah. It is my pleasure to invite our Executive Director, Brett Schenkman, to offer the blessings before the Haftarah and after the Haftarah.
Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei hamet v'tzedek.
And to offer the Haftarah, Muriel Letterman and Sandy Busney.
Cry from the depths, says God. Do not hold back. Lift up your voice like the shofar. Tell my people their transgression and the house of Jacob their sin. Yes, they seek me daily, as though eager to learn my ways, as if they were a nation that does what is right and has not abandoned God's law. They ask of me the right way, eager for God's nearness. They say, why did we fast and you did not see it? We afflict ourselves and you do not know it. Because even on your fast day, you think only of desire, while oppressing all who work for you. Because your fasting is filled with strife, and with callous fist you strike. No, your fasting this day will not lift up your voice before heaven. Is it the fast I desire? A day to afflict body and soul, bowing your head like a reed, covering yourself with sackcloth and ashes? Do you call this a fast, a day worthy of the favor of Adonai? Is not this the fast I desire? To break the bonds of injustice and remove the heavy yoke, to let the oppressed go free and release all those enslaved. It is not to share your bread with the hungry, is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and to take the homeless, poor into your home, and never to neglect your own flesh and blood?
Then shall your light burst forth like the dawn, and your wounds shall quickly heal. Your righteous one leading the way before you, the presence of Adonai guiding you from behind. Then, when you call, Adonai will answer, and when you cry, will respond, I am here. If you remove the chains of oppression, the menacing hand, the malicious word, if you offer your compassion to the hungry and satisfy the suffering, then shall your light shine through the darkness, and your night become bright as noon. Adonai will guide you always, slake your thirst in parched places, give strength to your bones. You shall be like a well-watered garden and unfailing spring. From you they will build ancient ruins, lay foundations for ages to come. And you shall be called the one who mends the breach and brings back the streets for dwelling. If you cease to trample Shabbat, stop pursuing your affairs on my holy day. If you call Shabbat a delight, the holy day of Adonai honored, and if you honor God by not doing business or speaking of everyday matters, then shall you take pure delight in Adonai. I will lift up your journey on earth to the highest of places and nourish you from the heritage of your father Jacob. For thus spoke Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol ha'olamim tzadik b'kol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'yoseh ha'medaber u'mekayim shechol divarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'neviim ve'al yom ha'kippurim hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu limchila v'lislicha u'kapara lechavod u'tifaret Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, umvarchim otach. Yitbarach shimcha befi kol chai, tamid leolam va'ed. Udvarcha emet v'kayam le'ad. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mochel v'soleach, la'avonotenu, la'avonot amo beit Yisrael. Uma'avir ashmotenu bechol shana v'shana. Melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael ve'yom ha'kippurim.
Just a few moments ago, we heard, literally just a few moments ago, we heard the Haftarah portion beautifully read by Muriel Letterman and Sandy Busney. Isaiah's words famously call for us to work for justice and freedom and are a clarion call for the work of Tikkun Olam. And I remember when the prophet Isaiah's cries became more than words on a page on Yom Kippur morning. I can tell you the date, December 6th, 1987. For some of you, that makes me really old, and for some of you, that makes me really young. I was standing on the mall in Washington, D.C. I was freezing, and I was standing with 250,000 other people. We had come together, chanting and singing and yelling for freedom for the Soviet Jews. In this moment, my heart and soul understood what the prophet Isaiah was demanding of us: to break the bonds of injustice, to let the oppressed go free, to release the enslaved. What a call to action. What I didn't know at the time, that 25 years before that march, a group of NASA scientists here in Cleveland heard Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel give a sermon highlighting the plight of the Soviet Jews. That day in 1963, the words of Isaiah came alive to them in their hearts and their souls. They were not surrounded by 250,000 people, nor were they standing on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. in freezing winter weather. Yet they felt the prophetic call of Heschel's words and knew they had to do something for the Soviet Jews. And they began a grassroots effort. In that sermon, Heschel wrote, "There is no other people in the world which is so absolutely committed to the sanctity of human rights and equality of all. What is called for is not a silent sigh, but a voice of moral compassion and indignation, the sublime and inspired screaming of a prophet uttered by a whole community." I am so moved that the roots of my social justice work was created in Cleveland. And today, 60 years after Heschel's sermon and 36 years after that freezing December day, so much of that message remains urgent and deeply inspiring. The dangers are different, but the message is same. The message is the same. We must act. The danger I wish to speak about today is the assault on women's reproductive freedom. This is also an attack on our religious freedom. Jewish values and laws on abortion are in stark contrast to current harsh governmental policies. And Jews are not alone. Other religions recognize the right of a pregnant person to make the deeply personal decision of whether to continue a pregnancy. Our call to action is to codify abortion access into our state constitution by passing Issue 1, which will be voted on in November. Issue 1 will establish a state constitutional right to make and carry out one's own reproductive decisions. Issue 1 includes the right of individuals to make decisions about abortion, contraception, fertility treatment, pregnancy, miscarriage, and care for crucial and life-saving healthcare decisions. Let us, Atem Nitzavim, stand up and be present for this issue. Together with our voices of moral compassion and indignation, we will break the bonds of injustice. What can you do? There is going to be a flyer passed around, I believe, in just a moment or at the end of the service, and the flyer will have information for us to move forward. We will have 3 opportunities to write postcards to voters: October 2nd from 7 to 8:30, October 11th from 1 to 3, and 7 to 8:30. If you cannot be in person, we will send postcards home with you. We have Text Bank Tuesdays with the Religious Action Center, Ohio. These Text Bank Tuesdays, September 26th, October 10th, October 24th, you can stay home and text. Make text, get people out to vote. Just as they did 60 years ago in Cleveland, and I did 36 years ago in DC. May the words of the prophet be alive in our heart and soul. Together, we will break the bonds of injustice, and together, we will be free. Amen. It's my pleasure to ask Len Podis to come forward. Len Podis is a member of our Board of Trustees and also Tikkun Olam Committee, and he is going to offer a blessing for our country, our Israel, and our congregation. It is not found in your book.
The blessings we seek. Source of blessing, our guardian and hope, bless, we pray, all who are dear to us. Watch over them with your protecting love. Bless the people of this congregation. Grant them health of body and serenity of spirit. Guide them on the path of Torah and good deeds. Bless our country, our leaders, and our fellow citizens and permanent residents. Keep us faithful to our heritage of freedom and justice. Help us banish all suffering and strife. Bless our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. Prosper the work of their hands and minds. Strengthen them and grant them peace. Bless our fellow Jews wherever they may dwell. Comfort those in distress. Deliver them speedily from darkness to light. Bless all your children in every land and community. Unite them in understanding and mutual helpfulness. Hasten the day when all can rejoice in a world of peace.
We return to our Machzor, our High Holy Day prayer book on page 291. And helps if I have my microphone on. I'll do it again. We return to our Machzor, our High Holy Day prayer book, page 291. And we rise as able to return the Torah to the Ark.
Let's fly in la mazukima, the tomechecha, ba'usha, dera'era,
page 293. We turn now to our time of confessing. One of the words for sin is chet, is I sinned, but the word chet actually comes from missing the mark. And so when we think about sin, sometimes it can be an uncomfortable word. But if you connect it to missing the mark, there are so many times we miss the mark. And we need to think about how we can get a little closer to that correct mark. Because I was angry, because I didn't think, because I was exhausted and on edge, because I'd been drinking, because I can be mean, because I was reckless and selfish, because I was worried about money, because my marriage was dead, because other people were doing it, because I thought I could get away with it, because I'm in pain, because I wish I could undo it, because I hurt him, because I lost her trust, because I let them down, because I was self-destructive, because I was foolish, because I'm ashamed, because that's not who I am, because that's not who I want to be, because God, bring down my walls of defensiveness and self-righteousness. Help me to stay in humility. Please give me the strength to do what's right. when I was young and learned the alphabet. Life was open to me. A was full of aspiration, B was for beauty, C for confidence, and D for dreams, and so on through the list. No fewer than 26 opportunities, 26 possibilities. And yet I fear that with the passage of time, I've squandered them, creating instead A's of apathy, B's of brusqueness, and C's of coarseness. Help me then to return to that innocence. Let the letters be letters once again, and let them rise to the heavens and form into the words that you know I wish to say. Page 296, we ask our prayers to rise with the short confession. Please rise.
Eloheinu, Velohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Tavo lefanecha, tefilatenu, ve'ol titolom mitchinatenu. Adonai Eloheinu, Belohei Avotenu, Belohei Motenu, Tzadikim anachnu, Beloch atanu,
Please be seated. We continue our short confession with Ashamnu, our alphabetic confession, and Deb has a beautiful teaching that she shares.
Yes, so you heard this last night if you were here, but if not, we did want to share it again. So as I was growing up, we were taught that with each of the words that we speak, we were supposed to knock on, to beat on our hearts, almost like we were trying to remind us of the pain or something. But a few years ago, I came upon an interpretation by Rabbi Goldie Milgram. She teaches that we're actually knocking to wake up our hearts. In Judaism, she says, the heart is the seat. Everything starts in the heart. Tapping on your chest, the door of your heart flies open. Ay, 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 Ashamnu.
Ay, 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 ay. Hebinu, Behir Shanu, Zadnu, Chamasnu, Tafalnu Sheker. Ay, 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 ay. Yatsnu Ra, Kizavnu, Latsnu, Maradnu, Niatsnu, Saranu, Avinu, Pashanu, Tsararnu, Kishinu Oref. Ay, 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 ay. Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Titanu, ay, 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 ay.
We continue now with the long confession, starting on page 300. Please read with me in Hebrew and English, or whichever you're comfortable with. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bechozek yad, va'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bezilzul horim umorim. The ways we have wronged you by abusing our power, and harm we have caused you in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Sorry, I have the wrong pages here. Let's start over. I'm going to start again. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha ba'ones uvratzon, va'al chet shechatanu lefanecha beyodim uvlo yodim. The ways we have wronged you under duress and by choice, and harm we have caused in your world, consciously and unconsciously. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bivlei da'at, va'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bivritzat raglaim lehara. The ways we have wronged you through our thoughtlessness, and harm we have caused in your world through impulsive acts of malice. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bechozek yad, va'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bezilzul orim umorim. The ways we have wronged you by abusing our power, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha beyetzer hara, va'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bikashuit oref. The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through inflexibility and stubbornness. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bechachash uvechazav, va'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bekalut rosh. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit,
harm we have caused in your world by making light of serious matters.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'seach siftotenu, va'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tzarut ayin, va'al chet va'al kulam. Sorry, that's on you guys.
The ways we have wronged you in our routine conversations, and harm we have caused in your world through envy.
Achet shechatanu lefanecha begalui uvesater, va'achet shechatanu lefanecha besinat chinam. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by hating without cause. Achet shechatanu lefanecha befrikat ol, va'achet shechatanu lefanecha b'ma'achol uvmishteh. The ways we have wronged you by self-control, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. Achet shechatanu lefanecha begalui arayot, va'achet shechatanu lefanecha be'imut halev. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world by hardening our hearts. Achet shechatanu lefanecha b'neshech uvmarbit, va'achet shechatanu lefanecha b'mashta uvmaton. The ways we have wronged you through greed and exploitation, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty and business. Achet shechatanu lefanecha b'harchor halev, va'achet shechatanu lefanecha b'rchilut. The ways we have wronged you through our innermost thoughts, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. Achet shechatanu lefanecha b'chapat shochad, va'achet shechatanu lefanecha b'chilul Hashem. The ways we have wronged you by offering or accepting bribes, and harm we have caused in your world by profaning your name in public. From pages 307 to 315, we now offer our silent confessional. The Yom Kippur day is one long service. So we do not have our traditional ending to this morning's service. We pause and then we continue throughout the day. So we take our pause in just a moment and we'll have we'll have another song, and then we'll break and we'll continue immediately with our afternoon program, which has become a beloved moment in our service. We call it the Journeys Symposium, when four of our members have an opportunity to share the stories, answering the question, what is the impact of Judaism on my life? Our speakers this afternoon are Mark Heller, Howard Feldenkrais, Susan Orpit Long, and Diane Green. We hope that you'll join us. We'll just have a quick bima shift, and that will begin really in about 12:30. And at 2:30, we have a class offered by Rabbi Ben Sternman. Many of you are familiar with him from our tent. He's a wonderful teacher. And then at 3:45, our afternoon Yizkor and memorial service will continue. We turn now to page 318. The song the choir will end our morning service with is called Hayom. It's a song about this day, asking God to strengthen us this day, bless us this day. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece.
Da
We'll reconvene in about 10 minutes for journeys.